Well, as you might have predicted, it's what everybody's talking about this morning, and it is in the wake of an inauguration like nothing I've ever witnessed before yesterday in Washington. And the word that continues to pop into my mind is arrogance, just unabashed, unadulterated arrogance that exudes from Donald Trump. That ironically, if that's the right way of using the word, is ingratiating for so many common people, to use that term common, the common person out there. It resonates with the people that you would think it would resonate the least with. But for some reason, they live vicariously. I think people live vicariously through Trump. People who have felt as though that they've been left out of the equation, no longer have a voice, been trampled on, whatever it might be. Donald Trump has given them a voice, and his utter, unabashed arrogance is off the charts. Paraphrasing some of the things that he said last night when he was signing executive orders in a very cavalier fashion. Basically saying, we don't need anybody. We need nobody. Everybody needs us. That was not kind of the message. That was the message. And listen, there's a danger, in my opinion, to going it alone and to isolating yourself as a nation in this way, because you never know what can happen and when you might need global partners. You never know. And again, it's just that's the word that comes to my mind. It's just utter arrogance. And when it comes to climate and climate change and that whole thing, folks, that war is done. That's over. It's done. The message has been sent. Drill, baby, drill. We're opening up Alaska. We're going to extract every bit of oil we can. And look, it makes sense in the short term economically. It absolutely does. If you can become energy independent and you can cut your energy prices down dramatically, and that will float any economy, and it will float the U.S. economy. But the problem is, the challenge is what's the long-term gain? What happens long-term? First of all, we all know that oil and gas and carbon are finite. It's a finite industry. It's going to end at some point. At some point, they're going to have to figure out other alternatives. But Trump is and the Republicans and the Americans in general today in the here and now don't care about any of that. They want a revival of the economy that once was driven by oil and gas. And drill, baby, drill, and Paris Accords done, and all of those agreements are over. It's done. So lots and lots to unpackage here, folks. I mean, I don't even know where to start, but there's lots to get to. We'll take your calls today. By the way, the Premier of the province, Tim Houston, will join the show. He'll be with us for about an hour. He's going to join me here in studio at about 11:45, and we've got him till about 12:45. So I'll ask him about all of these issues and trade concerns and tariffs and responses, and take your calls as well. So the Premier of the province, Tim Houston, will join me here in studio at about 11:45 till about 12:45. So thanks for listening, everybody. We appreciate it. Thanks to Vanessa Van Ness as well on the other side of the glass. The control board's doing a fine job, as always. All right, let's chat with Mark Brewer, University of Maine political science professor. Mark Brewer, I know you must be extremely busy. Thanks for taking the time to do it. We appreciate it.
No, I'm happy to do it, Todd. It's the first day of classes here today, so excitement on campus today.
Wow, for sure. All right, so what are some of your general broad strokes takeaway of what you witnessed yesterday?
I'm not quite sure where to start either. I mean, it's in some ways it's almost like he never left, right? It's like we know that he's been out of office for 4 years, and I think when he left office in 2021, many of us didn't think that we'd see this day again. But it's not. In some ways, it's almost like he never left, right? I mean, he took the oath yesterday. He gave his inaugural address, and then he, went and did some other events, and, we heard speech after speech after speech, and then he started signing executive orders, and he started making foreign policy statements off the cuff, and instantly for me, it was like I was reminded of what it was like during his first 4 years as president, but maybe in what's shaping up to be a crucial difference, this time he kind of knows what he's doing, which is either exciting if you're a Trump fan, or if you're not, it's very concerning. He last time around, he stumbled around out of the gate. Mm-hmm. He doesn't look like he's stumbling right now.
No, he certainly doesn't look like he's stumbling right now. I would say that the confidence level is off the charts, and look, it's okay. Let's. Do you have some concerns? I guess from what you're witnessing so far. What are your concerns?
For sure. I mean, first of all, Trump was elected this time, not only by the Electoral College, but, he got a popular vote majority. Not that matters, but it does matter in terms of claiming a mandate. That's different than the last time around. Trump's Republicans control both chambers of the United States Congress. The margins are tight, but they do control both. He has a 6-3 majority on the Supreme Court, and that same Supreme Court has given immense new powers to the President of the United States since the last time he was in office. So, sure, I mean, all of those things, and this would be a concern for me regardless of who held the office,
sure.
Right?
Yeah.
An unrestrained chief executive is something that is very concerning, right? The Constitution, at least under my reading of it, doesn't allow for what the Supreme Court says it does allow for, right? And so but the Constitution has said that's the case. If you go back and look at sort of the debates at the Constitutional Convention as recorded by James Madison, one of the biggest fears among many of the delegates there was this unrestrained chief executive, and some people at that convention might be thrilled with what we have right now, Alexander Hamilton being one of them. But I think most of the delegates at that convention would look at a muscular chief executive that we have right now and be scared out of their wits. And so that's my biggest concern. And that doesn't have anything to do with Trump specifically. That's just the state of the office. And then you mix in the Donald Trump specific concerns, someone who, as you pointed out, does seem to think that he's capable of doing no wrong. Someone who claimed in his first speech yesterday, that, God put him here for a reason. Yeah. Someone who thinks nothing of, ignoring what anyone else seems to think, to follow his own gut. Yeah, I'm concerned for sure.
Yeah, and the look, it's as far as the economy goes, domestically, and this kind of go it alone idea of pulling back on trade, is that something that is practical? Is that realistic? What are your thoughts on the trade and the domestic production of goods and protectionism on steroids? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I'm not an economist, but I mean, from what I do know, if he follows through with what he promised as a candidate, although he's dialed maybe some of these claims back, but now he says, well, maybe we'll look at tariffs on February 1st. So I'm not sure where he's going to go, but if he follows through on these, I think the disruption and economic pain for virtually everyone, at least short term, is going to be hard to fathom, right? I think we can say that. If he starts slapping 10% or 25% tariffs on goods from most foreign countries, the disruption is going to be huge for both Americans and for America's trading partners. Now, long term, could you, if you can get people to stomach this short term pain, could it be viable long term? Maybe, right? I mean, you could remake the economy. The economy, many global economies used to work this way. Yeah. But it's been a long time since protectionism has reigned. Free trade has been, more or less kind of the global standard for at least the last 75 years. So I don't know. I mean, I think short term we know that there will be some huge amount of pain involved in that. And it'll be widespread. When
you look at American prosperity, and he talked about American prosperity yesterday, and saying that he was surprised that America's done as well as it's done, considering the deals that it is made have not been traditionally typically good for America economically anyway. And NATO, it might be an example of that, in which we know that the United States has done a lot of heavy lifting. Ukraine war is another example of that, of the money that they put into that, while NATO surrounding countries have put in a fraction of what the United States have. And you would think in proximity to Ukraine, you would have more skin in the game, more of a sense of urgency for NATO countries in that area. But I couldn't help but think that perhaps that's part of why the U.S. has prospered, is because it's been a not a perfect global partner, but certainly in many cases it's gone beyond and been generous in many cases and been there for the rest of the world. And maybe that's part of the secret sauce. And if you eliminate that and you start pulling back and retracting and recoiling from all of that, then perhaps that leads to something different. What are your thoughts, if that makes any sense?
No, I mean, there's certainly no doubt that at least since, World War II, the United States has been kind of the force that is kind of, maybe governed is too strong of a word, but maybe not, but the force that is kind of directed or at least helped stabilize world affairs. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
There's also no doubt that the United States has, maybe contributed more than its fair share, however you want to define that, to lots of different causes around the globe, whether that be NATO or the war in Ukraine or whatever you want to look at. That's also undoubtedly true. But at the same time, as you point out, doing that is no small part of America's soft power, right? And Trump seems to lean awful hard on hard power, right? Mm-hmm. And he's moving those levers, and America's not going to take anything from anyone, and we're going to dictate our own terms. And okay, hard power allows you to do some of that, but there are limits to that. In some ways, soft power can be more useful, and part of America's soft power advantage has been cultural, no doubt, and entertainment and all that kind of stuff. But part of it also has to do with, generating global goodwill, right? And Trump seems to have no interest in generating global goodwill. And it's a different way of conducting foreign policy for sure. It's not a way that American presidents, at least in the post-World War II world, have operated. Other than Trump, and it's unsettling, right? Yeah. I mean, how it'll play out, I think, remains to be seen. But it's definitely a different mode of operating in the world for American presidents, and therefore for the United States. Because in foreign policy, unlike in the domestic sphere, where Trump will be challenged, even with Republicans controlling Congress and the Supreme Court, there'll be challenges there. Foreign policy-wise, the president has a very wide berth in the United States.
Yeah, and look, the clock is ticking already for Americans who he's promised massive changes, and people who bought into this new kind of golden era of life in the United States. And people, if a year from now their lives haven't improved and this isn't materializing, and then 2 years and three, this could blow up in his face in a massive way. There's huge risk. When you promise this big and you're that arrogant, you damn well better deliver, right?
Generally speaking, yes, right? I mean, you would think that for a normal politician who's making these big promises, if they fail to deliver on those, that at least some of their supporters and almost certainly their opponents will hold them accountable. I'm not sure that Trump is held to the same standard. He's able to say things and claim things that are demonstrably untrue and get away with it. I'm not sure that if he fails to deliver on these promises, that if he'll be held accountable. Is demonstrating that you tried to accomplish them going to be enough? I don't know. I mean, I suspect that one area where Trump will be held accountable by at least some of his supporters is going to be on prices and inflation, right? I continue to think a critical part of his being elected for a second term in office was Americans' dissatisfaction with high prices they were paying for everyday goods, Most importantly, groceries, secondarily gas prices, although those have been coming down. Groceries have not been coming down. And Trump made a big deal out of that. And, Trump is saying, well, we're going to drive those prices down. Well, that's easier said than done, right? Especially, presidents can have some control over energy prices. They have very little control over prices at the grocery store. And so if prices don't come down at the grocery store, is Trump going to be held accountable on that? Maybe, but he's already hinting, saying, well, I know this is going to be easier said than done, and it's going to be hard. We're going to work hard at it. He said, I'm going to have all my cabinet members look at how to bring prices down. I don't know. I don't know if he'll be held accountable. On some other things, he probably will deliver, right? He probably will. He's already delivering on some of his immigration promises, which, along with inflation, I think was his other big issue in getting elected for a second term. There, he can deliver. And some Americans will be appalled. His supporters, maybe not so much. And will he, if he deports, let's say he deports 6 million people who are here without proper documentation, all of a sudden there's labor shortages, prices go up. Is he going to be held accountable by his supporters for labor shortages and price increases, or is he going to be applauded by his supporters for actually following through on his deportation promise? My guess is it's going to be the latter, that they're going to support him for that.
Wow. Mark, listen, I know you're busy. Thanks so much, and we'll be talking many, many times. No doubt about that. Thanks, and we'll do it again.
All right, sounds good, Todd. Thanks.
All right, take care. Mark Brewer, University of Maine political science professor. U.S. tariffs could become a catalyst to bolster Canadian food supply chains, according to some. We'll talk about this when we come back. Michael Graydon, CEO of Food, Health, and Consumer Products of Canada, joins us for a chat. Michael, thanks for doing this today.
Todd, it's a pleasure to be with you.
All right, so I guess your reaction to what we witnessed yesterday, Donald Trump said as he was signing executive orders, kind of off the cuff, cavalier, February 1st. I think that seems like a good date in which we might impose tariffs on Canada. What are your thoughts on all of this to this point so far from your vantage point?
Well, get used to it, I think, in regards to the style of this president. And I think part of his tactic is to keep us at sort of on a cautious point. I think he probably heard the relief coming from Canada with regards to the media that the tariffs would be delayed. So he just throws that little zinger in there off the cuff. We're just going to have to get used to it. That's the man's style. And I think it's going to be very difficult to predict over time as to what direction he goes. But I think we're all very hopeful that he's got some very strong people around him that are providing him good guidance and sort of reflecting the importance of the relationship with Canada.
All right, so supply chains, what can we do domestically here, and what are we doing domestically in order to kind of shore up the supply chains?
Well, I don't think we're doing enough, and that's the challenge. I think there's a real leadership void in Ottawa today as we experience, a leadership change with the Liberal Party and the Prime Minister going out. We've all seen the polls in regards to what Canadians would like to happen. The challenge is I think there's been a lack of attention to sort of the domestic supply chains and the domestic infrastructure. And this is the time, I think, for Canada to really understand that we must become more resilient and self-sufficient. So the removal of interprovincial trade barriers, improved taxation, both for business and consumers, and the reduction in regulatory burden that exists. And you saw that yesterday with Trump signing one of his presidential mandates was that no more regulation is to be done in the United States at this point. So they can do a review and start to diminish it. The same thing is happening in the UK, and we are highly regulatory intense here, making it very difficult to do business in this country.
You talk about trade barriers. I mean, this is something that I've been in this business for going on 30 years now, and we've been talking about eliminating trade barriers. Why the hell don't we get this done? The interprovincial trade barriers, to me, that would be one of the, I don't want to say simple, but a place to start. Why do we not do this?
I think it's just, we have our own form of protectionism in Canada, and everybody wants to protect the industries within their own province. And we just have to get over it. I was very encouraged by the comments from Premier Smith yesterday when she was in Washington, identifying that it's harder to do business in Canada east-west than it is north-south. And I think that perspective needs to be shared across each provincial premier, and they need to just get their act together. This isn't going to go away with the United States. Not only do we have 4 years of this, remember, the tariffs that Trump put in his first mandate, they were not rescinded by President Biden. So this sort of attitude towards America first is something that's real, whether it's a Republican or a Democratic president. And so we've got to get that self-sufficiency. This is the opportunity to seize it. And hopefully there'll be enough pressure on Ottawa and enough pressure on the provinces to actually, for the once, get the thing done and do the right thing. Because if we don't, then I think we're just going to be continued to be victims of the bully tactics of the United States.
Okay, economy of scale, though, is a challenge, is it not? I mean, we only have 40 whatever million people here in Canada, and we're spread out along a massive landmass here. And markets and economy of scale matter in a big-time way when it comes to investment and scaling things up. Well, that's an issue, is it not? Or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a challenge. There's no question about it. But if we can get a good relationship with the United States, it will need to adjust. And I think as we go through the process of in 2026 of what was supposed to be a review of the trade agreement, CUSMA will actually probably be a rewrite. There's opportunities in regards to ensuring that we protect some of those very strong avenues of supply chain and relationships. And we're going to have to sacrifice some stuff through that way. And, Canadian agriculture and supply management and some of those things may need to be looked at the end as we move forward. So I think there are some opportunities, but I think, when you look at currently, about 60% of what you see center store on the shelf in a grocery store and a pharmacy in Canada, those products come from the United States. Those products years ago used to be manufactured in Canada, and we've allowed that manufacturing capacity to evaporate over time, and most of it to the U.S. So how do we start to incentivize capital investment again? Even though we're only 40 million people over a very large geography, it used to work. And we used to be much more self-sufficient, especially in the production of food, where we leverage the very strong agricultural competency we have in this country. And we've lost that. And I think there's an opportunity to find solutions to be able to attract that investment back to Canada. But today it's hard because our tax regime is very difficult, our regulatory regime is very difficult, and the cost of doing business in this country is high from a manufacturing perspective. So fix those things, and part of it is interprovincial barriers. It can have as much as 5% improvement in GDP. Why do we continue to ignore it? And I think this is that very important crossroads in Canada's sort of future to get some of these things resolved as quickly as possible.
Are you confident that this might be the push to get it done?
I am, and I think the fact also that there is political change in the air here in Canada will be very helpful. And I really truthfully believe, and I'm not being partisan, it doesn't matter which party it is, but I think there is political change in Canada, and I think it provides a great opportunity for that intensity in regards to making things different here for the best interests of the Canadian economy.
Just quickly, what type of timeline would we be talking to in order to kind of scale this up and to get this? Let's say that everybody gets rowing in the same direction. There's the political will, et cetera. All of those things. In the best case scenario, what would a timeline look like?
I think it's going to take a year of discussions and negotiations. We're going to continue to have to get Quebec on board. They tend to be very protectionist in their own right, and demonstrate to them that it can actually be an economic boom for the province because they have a very strong manufacturing industry in Quebec where many of those products aren't seeing the light of day in other provinces. So I think it's just a matter of getting people sort of comfortable with the component of it. And if you can get 3 or 4 very strong premiers. I would suggest David Eby, Daniel Smith, Doug Ford, and if we can get some support in Atlantic Canada as well, then this can get done sooner rather than later, I think, with a strong federal leadership in place, and hopefully a majority government, because we're not held to the whims of a coalition, but a very strong central leadership. I think we can get this done in a year.
Okay, Michael, appreciate your insight. Thank you.
Okay, Todd, thank you.
All right, take care. Michael Graydon, CEO of Food, Health, and Consumer Products of Canada. Moshe Lander, when we come back.
Thanks.
All right, joining us for a chat, Moshe Lander, economist from Montreal's Concordia University. Moshe, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Good morning.
All right, so we were kind of in a last-minute, off-the-cuff way. Trump mentioned while he was signing executive orders, February 1st. I think that'd be a good day for tariffs to start in Canada. How serious should we take him here?
Well, now that there's a date, I think we should take him serious. He was on the campaign trail saying that he would look at it, it would come. He didn't even say in his inaugural State of the Union address, whatever that was yesterday, anything specific about Canada. But when he starts throwing in February 1, what's to his advantage to back away from that date 10 days into his presidency?
Okay, so what can we do to prepare for this as a country? We kind of is a big term, I guess, but what preparations can be made here?
Well, if we're starting to prepare now, it's too late. We've known this has been coming. Well, we didn't know February 1. We did know when he was going to become president on January 20. So I would hope that exporters probably ramped up the amount that they were sending to the U.S. In November and December. We've already seen in November GDP data that exporters tried to ramp up the amount that they were sending to try and evade the tariffs. We'll probably see similar numbers for December, maybe even January as well. If you're a Canadian consumer at this point, the best thing is to prepare that there might be a little bit of inflation coming our way. The good news is that inflation numbers just came out today for December and showed that inflation cooled to 1.8. So we've even got a buffer there. The Bank of Canada's meeting at the end of the month. They'll cut interest rates. So I think beyond just a little bit of thought that, hey, these are going to be around for a while and there's probably retaliation coming, there's a lot of the groundwork has already been laid.
All right, so how much should we focus on diversifying our trade markets and our trading partners as opposed to ramping up domestic ability to kind of, in a similar way to what's going on in the United States in a protectionist way, to try and shore up our own domestic supply chains, et cetera? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, we need to start looking at broader trade and not being excessively reliant on the U.S. The U.S. is an economy of around 400 million people, and each of the different corners of the U.S. is almost an entirely self-contained economy, right? The Southwest is the desert, the Northwest is the jungle, and the Southeast is the humid growing area. Like each area is almost like a little self-contained country. Canada doesn't have that luxury.
Right.
And so we can't, as a country of 40 million people, do it alone. So if we can't rely on the U.S., then we have to look elsewhere. But one thing that we can do internally, and it's something that's been neglected for decades, is we have to look at interprovincial trade and all of the invisible barriers that exist that kind of make Canada not the perfect sort of free trade area it could be. And so something as simple as, for example, the language laws in Quebec act as an invisible barrier to trade, but so does all of the food and agricultural regulations if you're going to try and ship things across provinces, the state-run liquor in Nova Scotia and other provinces. These act as barriers. We can remove those, and that'll help soften the blow too.
Okay, when it comes to energy, this is something that it's going to change the landscape as far as I'm concerned. With the United States pretty much abandoning, well, not pretty much, has abandoned Paris, opening up Alaska reserves, drill baby drill, all of that stuff. Can we afford in this country to kind of go it alone when it comes to climate and carbon pricing and all of the measures that we are in the direction that we've taken? Or what are your thoughts on competing with the United States on the same continent with completely different energy policies? What are your thoughts?
we can compete, but we're not going to because we have a change of government coming within the next 4 to 9 months, and their entire platform is axe the tax. So the greatest thing that could be done to try and do our part to stall climate change, reverse climate change, is the building block of their entire economics platform. So look, we could do it. We could certainly find partners in Europe that would be willing to deepen the carbon market and make it a little more liquid, like a stock market even. But the fact is we're going to back away from that as fast as the new government comes into power. And at that point, then we really don't have a lot that's going to be looking to try and control the environment, save the environment. And I don't want to say that we're screwed, but, if the U.S. is backed away from it, that just gives incentive for every other country to say, well, if they're not going to do it, we're not going to do it either. And they're not just saying we don't want to do it. They're even backing away from the main organization that would be responsible for the talking shop to try and save the planet or halt climate change.
But in the short term, put climate change aside, in the short term, energy and unleashing the energy in the United States will work in order to fix some of the woes that the American economy has dealt with, including inflation. Will it or no?
No. The economy's not doing badly in the U.S. The economy is growing at a decent clip. They're showing no signs of a recession. Their dollar is strong. Interest rates will come down because they'll rein in inflation. But the biggest thing that's causing inflation right now is the fact that demand is outstripping supply. So, a little bit of extended high interest rates does a good job of slowing down the economy. As we saw in Canada, they'll have interest rates down within the next year to levels similar to ours. Trump will take credit for that, even though it really has nothing to do with him, but that's the way politics goes.
Wow. Very interesting. Okay, Moshe, listen, I know it's time tight for you today. Lots of demands on you. We appreciate you carving out some time for us, and we'll talk soon.
I appreciate it. We got 4 hours to talk, or 4 years to talk, sorry.
Okay, pal, take care.
Take care.
Moshe Lander, economist from Montreal's Concordia University. We'll find out what Tim Powers thinks about all this when we come back.
Thanks.
All right, before I talk to Tim Powers, we're going to give away 2 pairs of tickets to see the Mooseheads host Acadie Bathurst Titan on Thursday night. If you'd like a pair of tickets, again, you got 2 opportunities to win them. The tickets be callers 6 and 9 now at 902-405-6000. Again, 902-405-6000. If you'd like to win a pair of tickets to see the Mooseheads host Acadie Bathurst on Thursday. And good luck. Tim Powers, you're an athlete, right?
You could describe me as trying to be one. Yeah, I used to be one, but I still give it a go every now and then.
That's right.
And do you know Todd? Todd,
yes.
Fun fact.
Yes.
Where are Acadie Bathurst Titan moving next year?
I know. Are you going to be into it?
One of my friends is one of the owners.
Is that right?
Talking to him about it the other day. They're pretty pumped.
What? Why is hockey? Obviously, I think logistics. Just traveling to the Rock. That's made it a challenge. Right?
It's the flying and the costs of coming in and out. I mean, at least when you're the Mooseheads, you can go down there. You can drive to Bathurst. You can drive to Moncton. You can't drive anywhere to play any of your other teams from Newfoundland. So that's always the challenge. So they need more bums in seats, so to speak, and they need good season on a regular basis. They need good season ticket holders. So we'll see. It's great to have them back.
How often do you get home, Tim?
Now, probably once every 6 or 7 weeks.
Yeah, that's not bad.
No, it's not bad at all.
Yeah, not bad at all. And when you get off the plane, is there an entourage that waits for you there?
Well, they all have signs saying, "Where's Todd? Where's Todd? Where's Todd?" Speaking of this, I know we got to get into U.S. politics, but I've been watching Enigma, the Aaron Rodgers story. I think you and I have to go to Costa Rica like Aaron did for an ayahuasca retreat. Yeah. What do you think? You and I, how will we fight our demons or not? What do you think will happen?
Well, I tried to watch it, I will be honest with you. And when he was talking about his Achilles injury and bemoaning it as being the biggest challenge of his life, and I don't know. I lacked empathy for him. Is how I would describe it, Tim.
Well, you and I have both had, but you more particularly, more significant health challenges than an Achilles. Yeah. So it was hard to feel sympathy for a torn Achilles.
Yeah, and he's going on, he's getting the best care in the world, and he's crying as though. Anyway, I couldn't watch it past that. So. I'm done.
He's not going to be your quarterback anymore.
No, that's right.
You don't have to have mixed loyalties over it all.
There you go. Exactly. All right. So let's talk about yesterday. Kind of broad strokes, takeaway thoughts on the whole thing. I know that's a general question, but that's the place to start.
Let me start where the day ended for me. I came home from my son's hockey and I flipped on Trump's news conference while he was doing those executive orders. Oh my God. Back to Trump and all that comes with him, and falsehood after falsehood after falsehood. I guess so that it just struck me. Oh God, here we go again in that regard. Very singularly focused on what he is actually going to do with tariffs. He mentioned it in his speech. He mentioned it in the news conference last night, saying Canada, Mexico, 25% on February 1st. When asked by a Canadian reporter, Josh Wingrove, who now works for Bloomberg, about universal tariffs, he didn't rule that out. I mean, it's just... You needed one of those superhero decoder rings to try and figure out what everything means, and it's so frustrating, frustrating.
Yeah. Do you get heat, Tim, from people? I mean, because of your stance. I mean, on Trump kind of being, I don't want to say anti-Trump. I wouldn't categorize you as that. But do you get heat from people on this because he's got a ton of support?
A little bit, but look, I think, most people, even if they're hardcore Trump, have to have a degree of skepticism that everything that comes out of his mouth is going to be possible. But, I don't care if I take a little bit of heat for it. I look at it as a dad, and what kind of example is this guy setting as, the leader of the free world? Not a great one.
Yeah. What I took away from it, took away a lot of things from it, is a complete lack of compassion or even a consideration of just this utter arrogance, this isolationism, this we don't need anybody, you need us attitude. And I just think that there's a real danger in that hubris on steroids moving forward globally, because you don't know what's coming around the corner. It's kind of like life, right? People can think they're on top of the world and a plan's great until a plan doesn't work anymore. And you never know what can happen globally and when you're going to need people and you're going to need help. And that kind of was ringing in my mind. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, look, and you only need to look at American history to recognize that, yes, the U.S. have been great allies to others, but we've been great allies and supporters of the U.S. I mean, 9/11, look at our own provinces, where you are in Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, and Labrador. Yeah. We were there for them. We didn't say no. You couldn't land in Nova Scotia. No, you couldn't land in Gander. We said, we will welcome you and we will help you because that's what you do. Isolationism is a recipe for trouble. And I find he's building the hopes for things he can't deliver. He's only going to be in power for 4 years. You can't change the whole global manufacturing system in 4 years. It's just not going to happen, particularly when it's pretty well integrated as it is now. Raising expectations and then not having them met creates more disappointment after the fact. I mean, yeah, he's good for cheerleading and making people feel emotionally better, but you got to worry about the letdown after the fact.
Yeah, and the attitude that must be perpetuating against Mexicans and just I mean, I get it that there are problems and challenges with immigration, and these are issues. I'm not going to hide from that. But man, oh man, you cannot just lump everybody into one pile and impugn an entire group of people. It's just dangerous.
It is, and this is what's got us in trouble in the past. How many lessons of history do we need to know that, to say all of one group is bad and they can't be dealt with? And I mean, God, look more closer to home. The Northern Irish conflict was did every Catholic view every Protestant in Northern Ireland as a threat? Perhaps at one time they did, but over time they got rid of all of that. I mean, it's not an ideal place now, but certainly in terms of healing, but it's getting there. You can't just generalize the way he does.
Energy and the climate. It appears as though that the war is I don't want to say over, but at least for the next 4 years, the war is over. And if climate change is in fact something that is real, and we have every reason to believe that it is, man, oh man, Trump and this administration has completely abandoned any concern for it at all. and the message is pretty loud and clear. We don't believe in the science. We don't care about the science, and we're drill, baby, drill. And that's scary. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, there's some short-term regional benefits for Atlantic Canada, right? I mean, that assumes that our oil still and oil and gas, which gets exported to the United States, still has a place there. But there will be other markets. But just look at California, right? Look at Atlantic. Sure. How many serious storms have we had in the last few years that battered the hell out of our region?
Yep.
And one maybe is a 100-year event, but when they happen consistently, it's hard not to argue that there is something happening with the climate. The degree you can debate, but something's happening. The warming isn't fictional. It's just like you're pushing the problem down the road, and what are we doing for our kids?
But do you think that there is a kind of a denial that is becoming rampant in the United States, or perhaps even globally, or here in Canada, or whatever? Do you think that is it because people are struggling so much in the here and now, and inflation and all the challenges that people are dealing with, that they just don't have the capacity? I'm not criticizing anybody, but perhaps we as
a worn down, Todd. Yes, I mean, look, the affordability crisis is real. I have people talking to me, as I'm sure you do, about it every day, be it publicly or privately. And credit to people like Polyev and others for making carbon pricing, turning it into the carbon tax, and making people feel like the pain that they're suffering is coming from climate policy. I mean, credit politically in the long term. I don't know if it's the right policy, but the Liberal government did a horrible job, selling the virtues of whatever it was they were trying to do there, and now they're all abandoning it. So what does that say about their commitment to climate policy? If, it was such a great idea, why are the major candidates for the Liberal Party running away from it all? So in times like this, people who believe in these things and believe in a particular policy need to stand firm too and say, no, this is the right way. Yeah, we can amend it, but that isn't happening either.
Yeah, and I want to get your thoughts on his comments on TikTok, which I was
joint venture, Todd. Joint venture.
Yeah, I was gobsmacked by that. Is it not? I wouldn't think internationally it would be legal to say we will allow you to operate in our country, but you got to give us half of your company, and we're going to have a say and control over, especially an information company like that. I was gobsmacked by that, Tim.
But it's Trump, right?
Yeah.
It's like he thinks everything's a real estate deal. All right, I'll give you that piece of property over there, and you take 50% of that, and I'll get 50% of that. We'll make the everything work here. I mean, maybe to be fair to him, and I think this is what some of the appeal is, people look at him and say, yeah, he was a great businessman. He's a great businessman, gets things done. That's the kind of thinking we need to disrupt things. Yeah, maybe, but I don't think that thinking can be applied to technologies that share people's personal and private information.
What about the oligarchy that we're watching form before our eyes? Concerned about that? I have concerns. I'm sure you do as well.
The tech bros at church yesterday? Well, first of all, I was waiting for the lightning to strike in there. Yes, why wouldn't we? I mean, I feel like it's that Bond movie where the villain is the media megalomaniac who was able to shape and direct the world until Daniel Craig, or who was the Bond character, that doesn't matter, was able to save them. Yeah, and look, people are probably saying, who like Trump, oh, Todd and Tim, they're being hysterical. Yeah. They don't get it. They don't get it. Yeah, maybe we don't get it, but there is something to be said about decency, moderation, and a thoughtful approach to the way things get done. Yeah, we need some disruption. Yeah, our bureaucracies all need to change, but equally, it's all about the degree, and that's what we have to watch with Trump. Where does the highfalutin rhetoric take us, and what kind of opportunities does it create, and what kind of challenges does it create? I think it's fair to comment on that.
Okay, and lastly, what the hell does the Trudeau government do at this point with having a cabinet retreat? That's a whole other conversation. Can't believe they're having another retreat. But anyway, What response can they offer at this point?
Oh, I've heard so many theories on this. I mean, I think they have to find ways to smartly fight back. Go at states, the Republican states, red states, and make them feel pain. So that Trump, the people that supported him are going. Is hearing that, hey, you're screwing us in the process, because all of this is supposed to be about enriching Americans, making America great again, make Americans unfortunately, make the key Republican states feel the pain so that they say, hey, Mr. President, this isn't working the way it said it would.
Yeah. Okay, Tim, always great, and we'll talk at the end of the week.
Okay, take care, buddy.
Okay,
Bye.
Take care. Tim Power, Summa Strategies, Abacus Data, friend of the show. Now it's time for you. What do you think about all of this? And look, maybe you thought what you watched yesterday was fantastic and great in every way. And if that's the case, give me a call and explain why. Tell me why. Or maybe you feel as though that you've got concerns or whatever it is. 902-405-6000. That's the way to reach us. By the way, we'll have the Premier join us to take your calls for about an hour, and he'll join us at about 11:45 until about 12:45. But in the meantime, time for you and your calls. 902-405-6000. An open hour when we come back. All right, taking your calls, 902-405-6000. By the way, the Premier of the province, Tim Houston, will join the show at about 11:45, and he'll be with us until about 12:45. So taking your calls and questions, look forward to chatting with the Premier of the province. In the meantime, we've got some time for you, 902-405-6000. What would you like to get into today? Perhaps some of you might want to talk about what you witnessed yesterday when it comes to Donald Trump and the inauguration and the executive orders that he was signing fast and furious in a very cavalier way. And the utter, unabashed arrogance is how I would describe it. Look, I know that people out there like Donald Trump. I get it, obviously. And I also believe that a lot of people like Trump who won't even admit to themselves or other people that they like Trump. I think that a lot of people out there are highly entertained by Donald Trump and are drawn to him for an entertainment factor. I don't think that. I know that to be the case. I've said that many times. That last night, that was a show when he was signing those executive orders. That was all a show. He would sign the executive order, make a comment on it, answer a question, off the cuff, unpredictable. All of that is a show, like no other politician has ever understood or captured. And really, manipulation is what it's all about. The manipulation of minds, that's what it's become. Even when they talked about information and how information gets disseminated, there's of course, the right, to use that term, the right of center movement happened online, supposedly. And I'm talking about podcasts and YouTube and other platforms online. Twitter, of course, which is now X, and Instagram and Facebook. That is where alternative points of view were heard, because those, in many cases, those views were not allowed on mainstream media, the left, whatever, CNN, the CBC, CTV, whatever, however you want to categorize legacy media. So now we're told that basically there's a big wedge going on, and it's about manipulation. And how do you manipulate people in order to believe what you want them to believe or to think the way that you want them to think? And once somebody catches on to a kernel of an idea that they like and they're gravitated towards it, man, oh man, the algorithms will throw it out to you fast and furious. And it's pretty hard to keep up with that. And that's what's going on with social media now. And this is one of my big concerns with all of this. When you've got Zuckerberg, and you've got Musk and Bezos, and these tech moguls, and the control, and now TikTok, and that's power, folks. That is absolute massive power. Entertainment, information, manipulation. That is power. and also the oligarchy that is existing. We're watching it happen. You want to talk about pay for access? Well, Elon Musk paid for access yesterday. Bezos paid for access yesterday. Zuckerberg. All of these people paid for access. And there's a real serious danger in proximity to power and money and industry. And we're witnessing it firsthand. Now, all that said, folks, maybe some of you out there loved what you saw yesterday and said it's about time. It's about time that Donald Trump and somebody took charge of the situation. Somebody had to take charge, in particular, of the southern border. I get it. Deport them and be done with the gender issue as well and all of that. All of the red meat that Trump threw out there yesterday, perhaps you support that. 902-405-6000. That's the way to reach us. That all said, what about our federal government? Another retreat. I don't understand how anybody can be so tone deaf as Justin Trudeau. I mean, this guy is the most tone deaf person. He has absolutely no clue what's going on around him. I mean, he's holding a cabinet retreat in Montreal, Quebec. Now, typically they do these annual winter retreats, but give me a break. Just cancel the damn thing, okay? First of all, you're only going to be the prime minister for another 10 minutes. And there's got to be a better use of your time than this. Flying all of these cabinet ministers to Quebec and to wine and dine them and to spend our money and to have this retreat to do what? What an absolute joke it is. Cabinet retreat. You wonder why people are sick and tired of this government? This is why. 902-405-6000. Michael, hello.
How you doing? You got to be disgusted, Todd, and I don't blame you. When you see that all the girls lined up there at that coronation ceremony yesterday at Trump, it's enough to make you sick. And not only that, Todd, they made a special close-up attempt last night on the National. Guess who was sitting in back and paid for his ticket to get in on that? Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah.
Wayne Gretzky, the Order of Canada Wayne, the great one from our country. Todd, I blame it directly on the people themselves because it's the people that allow these incompetent people to get in charge. And not only incompetent people, out-and-out gangsters. When you get a convicted felon, a known rapist, you name it, he's been there, he's done it. And they come on there and even suggest that they're going to put tariffs on Canada. Do they not remember 1959 when they come up here and took the Arrow program right out of Diefenbaker's hands and they cut it up with a blowtorch? That's when the people should have made the stand, and they didn't. We got to get back to developing our own country. We have the riches here, Todd, and it just takes the will to do it. There's other people in the world that love to get in on the action here in Canada in terms of trading valuable resources and food products and you name it. And that's where I give our premier credit. He's part of the team. He's there helping or trying to help or look for solutions to deal with this major problem that we're facing today. And for some of those people to call your program, Todd, and lean towards in favor of somebody that was appointed by God, as he so says, to make America great again, that if you had one of those little scribblers that I used going to school with the bear on it and a straight hockey stick, you wouldn't even put his picture inside it. It's time for the people to open their eyes, and I don't mean the people that are going to turn around and support our own Republican Party in this country. They could turn on a dime tomorrow. It's just not brazen enough yet to come out and say it. But polyethylene, what are their ideas or what are their policies? You're absolutely right what you said about Trudeau with them in a retreat. Sean Fraser's wrong going and supporting Mark Carney. Mark Carney would have fit in like a glove down there in Washington yesterday with Peso and all of those guys. Did you see Mr. Musk getting up on the stage at the mic?
Yes.
And what he done? He gave the Hitler salute right in front of a so-called democratically elected government.
Yeah.
You know, that's sickening, Todd.
Well, okay, Michael. Listen, I'm gonna let you go. I'm not listen. When it comes to Musk, I don't that salute thing. I don't know that he knows what he's doing. Quite honestly, I find it hard to believe that he would be that careless to do something like that and knowing that that's what he's doing. My personal belief is he was overly enthusiastic, and that's a gesture that just came out. However, I think of all the things to talk about out of yesterday, that to me is one of the last things that I would be considering. Now, if it were legit and it was a legitimate Nazi salute, yeah, you're damn right, we'd be talking about it. But that's just my take. 902-405-6000. Tyler, hello.
Hey, Todd, how's it going?
Well, you?
I'm doing well. I know you get it all the time, but just want to say it's really good to hear your voice back on here. And I just want to ask you quickly, how are you genuinely doing?
How am I genuinely doing?
Yeah.
You're talking my health?
Yes, yeah, I am.
Yeah, I'm doing fine. I'm doing as well as I'm doing exactly as the doctor and my surgeon is expecting me to do at this stage. Am I 100%? Absolutely not. I never will be 100% ever again. And that's okay. I've come to terms with that. But I'm learning to manage it, and through the surgery and through the technology, I'm managing it, and it's a process. It's not easy, but it's something that I feel I am going to be able to manage long term, and that's all I can ask. And Tyler, when all is said and done, I've said this before, I'll say it again. I could be the richest man on earth and not have gotten or received better care than I get right now, and I know there are a lot of knocks on the healthcare system, and I'm not taking that away from people who have had bad experiences. But I have had nothing but great experience, and I can't say enough about the healthcare team that has supported me. So that's a long answer for I'm getting through it, and I'm where I should be.
You're a beacon of hope, not only for your own personal health, but for the healthcare system on a whole. There, at least you're not waiting on somebody with an umbrella coming down and giving you a spoonful of sugar.
Yeah, there you go. So thanks. I do appreciate that, Todd. Appreciate the question.
Yeah, I haven't talked to you since you got back, but I've been listening, and it's great to hear you back. So
great.
I just wanted to touch on you were talking a little bit earlier about kind of how the power oligarchy is kind of on full force here. You know, you have Musk and Bezos and all these guys kind of standing up behind it. And I just kind of wanted to play a little bit of devil's advocate.
Sure.
I wouldn't say I'm a Trump supporter here or anything like that, but just kind of looking at it, at least my thought on it is, if it is that, at least it's out in the open. You know, in previous administrations and stuff, you have no idea who are the people kind of pulling the strings behind the scenes, and who are the lobbyists, and who are all the people kind of behind the scenes. At least if that's what this is, at least it's out in the open.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I listen, and I think that's part of the secret sauce that's worked for Trump, is that he's not been a typical politician. Bill Clinton and all that stuff. These guys, they do a great job of hiding that, but and so I get your point. I take your point, Tyler. But man, oh man, there's got to be some restrictions when it comes to the checks and balances, and to the level of arrogance is just scary. That to me is, I mean, some diplomacy goes a long way, and I get it that people like that's what again. I go back to entertaining. I honestly think, Tyler, people watched that yesterday and were entertained by that. It was must watch TV in a way that I've never seen a political scene. It was a spectacle like I've never seen, and I just think that Trump gets it, that if he's entertaining you, then he's winning, and I that's what I think. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, there's certainly an element to that, and I mean, I think well over half the voting population of the United States seems to think so as well. And there's elements to that for sure. But again, it's if politics was strictly just about politics, then it would be it would
boring.
certainly, yeah, exactly. It would be something else. Just two other things on my mind before I let you go.
Sure.
This whole, the focus on this whole, Elon Musk, salute thing. The amount of vitriol and stuff that goes against this guy is pretty intense. And I think the guy deals with Asperger's or autism or something. I can't remember quite what it is. I shouldn't speculate, but when I watch that, I've seen it on the social media and stuff. When I watch that, I just see a guy who's putting his hand on his heart, saying like, kind of like a thank you.
I agree with that. There's no way that was intentional, in my opinion.
No, absolutely not. Yeah. And of course, that's going to play into other hands and stuff. But it is what it is. And I just want to say, with the relationship to Canada and the possibility of these tariffs, and it's probably going to happen. I mean, what he's doing is kind of a protect America first kind of thing. And you know what? Maybe it's not a bad thing, overall. Certainly there are aspects of that are going to affect both countries. But, I look at things like, he talked about getting rid of taxes on tips and overtime work, right? I look at that and it's like, man, with what we're dealing with the workforce coming out of the COVID era, and people not willing to work and stuff like that. If things like that are kind of put quote unquote America first, or it should be any country really, put your country first, input name of country here. I think any kind of policies and stuff that come about from that are.
I would agree with that, Tyler. I guess I would. My response would be I can see why that resonates with people, but I think it's like anything in your own life as well. That if it's all about you all the time and what can I do for me all the time, and you become obsessed with that, then. I think that has its flaws and that has its trap doors as well. And I think part of why the United States has succeeded so much in the last number of decades is because it has been willing to help, and not a perfect country by any stretch. And people you could criticize the U.S. all day, but I just think that the idea of us and me and I think there's a danger in that. Is all I'm saying, Tyler.
Well, certainly there is, and I'll go here in 10 seconds. But certainly there is. But I think you can only approach helping the rest of the world or helping other places when you're good at home.
Yeah, that's true.
Get home base in order first, and then you go out. You can't give out to charity if you're struggling with your own bills. Yep,
that's true. Okay, Tyler, thanks for the call, pal. Appreciate it. Take care. 902-405-6000. We'll continue with your calls when we come back. All right, taking your calls, 902-405-6000. Another reminder, the Premier of the province, Tim Houston, will join me here in studio at about 11:45, and we've got him till about 12:45. So we will open the phone lines and take your calls. 902-405-6000. Dave, hello.
How you doing?
Well, you?
Not too bad. This is my first call in.
Great.
I'm what I'm going to talk to you about is not qualified, other than past knowledge.
Okay.
But Mr. Trump there said that he doesn't need anything from any other country.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he's going to put a tariff in on February.
Right.
Well, in February, and if you look back 10, 15 years ago, we opened an LG project for power, and it goes from James Bay all the way to Labrador. 90% of that power goes to the States.
Yeah.
They had a relay on Wood Island that went out one morning, and from Chicago to the Atlantic. It went black down there because they lost power from LG power. So if he doesn't need it, okay, we'll just take fine. February 1st, we'll shut that off for you. All right, and see how they like not having the power they don't need.
Yeah. Well, look, I get it, and some would say that we need to play hardball, and Doug Ford's talked about that. But there are, I suppose, look, how far do we want to push this? That's the thing, because it's a dangerous game when you're going up against a trade war with an economy the size of the United States. And I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that there are dangers and there are ways in which things can go sideways with these types of things. And I don't know that we're in the best position right now to start cutting oil exports and energy exports to the United States. Perhaps I'm dead wrong, but I just think that is, to me, it's an option, but I'm not convinced it's the best option.
Well, no, I'm just a layman. Okay.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
I don't have the facts. All I'm saying is I know that they had a problem in Wood Island 10, 15 years ago, and from Chicago to Atlantic, it went black.
Yeah.
All right. And it's from the LG project, which is power all the way from James Bay right out to Labrador.
Yeah.
But anyway, the trouble is we have far too many people that won't play hardball at all because they got their pockets full or getting filled, okay, for selling away set. You had a comment on from another gentleman there. He said 59. The Arrow got cut up by the states.
Yeah,
it did. But Diefenbaker had a very private, large account filled up. Okay, he sold that to the states. I can't prove that. Okay, and if his family wants to sue me, they can. Okay, they'll get nothing out of me. But I'm just saying that he sold that. Okay, and they closed it down, and all the people that were building that plane went down to the states, down to McDonald's. Yeah. All right, and that's where the F-14, the 15 came from. Right? But anyway, my comment is we should just say, excuse me, if you really don't need this, on February 1st, we'll shut it off, and you give us a holler if you miss it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay. All right, Dave. Thanks for the call. 902-405-6000. Here's the thing with Trump is that Trump can be very, very vindictive. And he's got immense confidence and immense power, and how far do we want to push this thing? And it's a game, it's a political game, but it's a tough one. And you get a couple schools of thought. One would be try and charm him and try and educate the American public and all the American industry and people living in particular around the border states about the symbiotic relationship with us and trade and why it's so important to them. Or you can just play hardball and say, okay, we're going to retaliatory tariffs and we're going to stop sending power. I don't know that that's the route to go, because with Trump, you poke the bear, and what the unpredictability is a factor. I'm glad I'm not responsible for making these decisions, that's for sure. 902-405-6000. We'll continue with your calls when we come back. All right, continuing with your calls, 902-405-6000. Jeremy, hello.
How you doing, Todd?
Doing well.
Yeah, a couple of comments that stood out to me here. One was a couple of callers back who said that, at least there's transparency now in this administration with all the tech moguls standing up there beside him. Mm-hmm. I don't know how anybody can think that at this stage, given Trump's history. I mean, he has an aversion to telling the truth that I've never seen before in my life. Look at, he just won this election, and he's still saying that the last one was rigged, and that the Democrats or whoever, they also tried to rig this one, but they made it too big to rig. Yeah. I mean, so for anybody who, looks at it in the big picture and looks at his history to say, well, what he's saying, is truthful, I don't know how anybody can believe anything that he says. And I think that's dangerous, because if we start to fall into this place of, now that he's been duly elected, and he's happy with the results, he's going to change. He's certainly not, I don't think, and I think you're exactly right as far as this oligarchy that's starting to unfold. I read an article in the Atlantic, and it said, and not to draw the analogy between, Trump and Hitler. I know, look, that's maybe extreme, but it took Hitler 53 days to dismantle Germany's democracy. 53 days from start to finish, and he used their own constitution to do it. And I think, based on some of the stuff that's coming out surrounding Project 2025, some of the people that he's putting in his administration now, the work that he's done to load the Supreme Court with justices that are, leaning in his direction. I don't think this is by mistake. It's by design. I think he's got enough smarter people than him around him to say, you know what, there are institutions that we can change and dismantle to operate in a way that maybe he's not leaving. He's openly expressed his admiration for, a numerous amount of dictators and strongmen around the world. That he's not hiding, right? He thinks being a dictator is a cool thing. So, you can take it with a grain of salt. You can take it seriously, not. I think you really have to look at the overall, what's taking place in his administration. He's firing people that aren't Trump loyalists, and putting people who are Trump loyalists in. If he gets enough of those people in the right institutions, could he dismantle that Constitution and stay there forever? I don't think it's not a stretch to think that's a possibility.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree it's not a stretch, and anything. And yeah, look, that's the issue with this guy. Or that's one of the challenges that when you're dealing with somebody who's so incredibly unpredictable, and that's part of his style, right? Is being unpredictable, leave people guessing, kind of off the cuff, cavalier attitude, and yeah, I think you're right. Look, it's who knows. I guess when all is said and done, Jeremy, nothing should surprise us at this point when it comes to what Trump does.
No, I agree with you 100%. And I'll add one other thing to that, this unpredictability. We're talking about various premiers talking about what measures they're going to take, and the prime minister's talking about what measures this administration is going to take before he leaves. I don't understand why any of these people are telling Trump, telegraphing their game plays. We don't do that in sports in general.
Yeah.
You don't do it when you're dealing with somebody that you want an economic advantage or a business advantage over. Don't tell him what you're going to do. I think that the best comment for anybody in the Canadian administration to make is, we'll respond accordingly when we see what Mr. Trump is going to do.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Don't give him your game plan.
Yeah, I think the reason why they're doing that is because they want to appear to be serious and appear to be tough, and in hopes that he'll back down, in hopes that Trump will back off. I think that is the secret game plan that they're employing here.
I get that, and I think if anything, they should be bluffing. Then they should be talking about measures they're not going to take and keeping the baseball bat under wraps until they need it.
Yeah, and perhaps they are bluffing, Jeremy. I personally would be shocked if energy exports and power were cut to the United States from Ontario and from Newfoundland and Labrador, Quebec, or wherever. I would be shocked. I don't predict that happens. I don't think that we've got the intestinal fortitude to pull that one off.
No, and you may be right. And one last thing that comes to my mind in this conversation is, the old fable, David and Goliath. And Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book with that title. And one of the things that he highlighted in each of the chapters were people who disrupted systems because they thought outside the box. And Trump's certainly one of those guys. But I also think that other nations who are smaller and less mighty than the United States could be, in some senses, Davids against a Goliath if they start to think outside the box.
Yeah.
And I think, disrupt things in a way that maybe, the smart people around him wouldn't have seen coming.
Okay, thanks, Jeremy.
Cheers, buddy.
Take care. 902-405-6000. Chris, hello.
Good morning, Todd.
Good morning.
Just a quick comment. Every incoming administration, no matter where it is around the world, loads government up with their supporters, do they not? And their loyalists.
Yes.
We do it here in Canada. Certainly, we've seen it with every incoming administration. You wouldn't put your detractors and your enemies there. If you want to succeed, you want people that are like-minded and will support you. Certainly, Trudeau's got a bunch of clapping seals behind him all the time. Just a quick comment. It's not what I called about, but the boil order on the water thing with the power outage. I thought they had generators. Didn't we go through this the last time?
We sure did.
Happened?
Yeah, we sure did. And we need some answers as to what happened with the generators again.
I'm willing to bet that everything except the chlorination end of the thing is supported by the generator, and someone forgot to hook up the most obvious thing that you need is the chlorination. I mean, I know that sounds silly, but I wouldn't be surprised. We pay enough for water. We should have these backup systems. If they're in place, they should work. Have you had a chance, Todd, to look at the membership of this Tariffs Relations Council that Trudeau has set up to negotiate, if you will, against the Trump administration?
I have not, no.
Well, if you have a chance, do yourself a favor and look at it. I did. There's 18 members on it, and they're dealing with probably one of the most important issues that could negatively affect Canada that we've had in decades, if not century. And I Googled basically the top 300 corporations in Canada. There's not one member or representative from any of those corporations on that board. He's got retired ambassador so-and-so. He's got Jean Charest, Stephen McNeil, Rachel Notley, Brian Tops, who is the former chief of staff for Notley. And he's got a whole bunch of other people. But the corporations that have skin in the game and actually have experience dealing with the states and other big entities are not represented. We have, in my opinion, the worst possible representation for a negotiation on this matter that Trudeau ever could have put together. I mean, I cannot believe it. I was shocked to see there's no one from the oil and gas industry, which doesn't surprise me because there was hardly anybody from any place west of Ontario anyway. No bankers or financial guys. No one from CN or CP, no mining industry representatives, no lumber industry, no one from the potash and fertilizer industry, and it goes on and on and on. It's unbelievable, Todd. Our top corporations that have qualified people, obviously, are not represented, and we have a chance of negotiating against Trump and his guys. Good luck with that. I'm in full agreement with you. I don't think we should poke the bear. The bear is 10 times population-wise, 10 times bigger than us, and probably, I don't know the exact math, but probably 15 or 20 or 25 or 30 times bigger than us in economy. And we can't win. You don't get into a pissing contest with Trump anyway. You will not win. He won't allow you to win, even if he cuts off his nose to spite his face. So, I mean, for them to think, I mean, it's great that they're all putting on a great show of supposed solidarity and, well, we're going to stand up for Canadians. And I saw Trudeau's press conference this morning. I'm sick and tired of hearing this stepping up and we have your back and all this crap. He hasn't done it for the 9 years or whatever he's been in office, and now all of a sudden he's going to step up and do it, and we're going to trust him and the people he's appointed to this council to negotiate the most important deal that could adversely affect Canada. At least in my opinion it is. I don't know what you think on it, but I certainly think it's a very, very worrisome thing, and it's something we should be all very, very concerned with. And going back to the States and putting tariffs on their goods, that's just hitting us again in the wallet, because we can't buy those goods hardly now at the prices they are. A lot of people can't. So you put a tariff on it, that's ridiculous. Don't poke the bear. I'm in agreement with you 100% on that. But Todd, seriously, if you have chance, look at that list of the 18 members and see who he's got put on there. I mean, it's an eye opener to me that anyone could for negotiating something like this, knowing the kind of people that you need there, and there's not one of them, in my opinion, there's not one of them there that can do a good job.
Okay, thanks for the call, Chris. Take care.
Thank you, Todd.
Okay, take care. All right, thanks for the calls, everybody. We are going to do something different over the next little while, and that is chat with the Premier, Tim Houston. He'll be here in studio, and we've got him for about an hour. So if you'd like to talk to the Premier, give us a call at 902-405-6000. If you've got a question or a comment or a response or whatever it might be, 902-405-6000. Premier Tim Houston when we come back. All right, here we go. Joining me here in studio is the Premier of the province, Tim Houston, and I haven't had a chance to sit and chat with Tim Houston for quite a long time because I was out for a while. Dealing with what I've been dealing with, and Tim's been out winning a massive election. Tim, Premier Houston, thanks for coming in.
Happy to be here, and happy to be here with you. Glad to see you back, and really happy to be here.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So, wow, where to start, I suppose. First of all, congratulations on a pretty impressive win. I mean, the supermajority, that's got to feel really rewarding, eh?
Yeah, happy it's over. One of these things, elections, you never know, right? You kind of keep moving forward, and you have polls and stuff, but you never know until you know. So I'm happy it's over. We had a great team, and the caucus that we have is a strong caucus, and we can get a lot done. So we're ready to make things happen.
Okay. Speaking of making things happen, give us a call at 902-405-6000. This is an opportunity to have the ear of the Premier, and that's something that we appreciate, and it's very valuable to have your voice heard. 902-405-6000. I guess I'm going to get to phones, lots of calls already, but a few things that I wanted to take care of right away. What do you hope to achieve? What if you had an action item, which I'm sure you do? What do you hope to achieve first and foremost with this pretty solid mandate?
Continue with the plan on healthcare. Yeah. Things are improving in healthcare for sure, but there's work to be done. So continue that focus. Same with healthcare, housing. These focuses that we've had. Continue with that, but obviously right now it's grow the economy. Yeah. So there's lots of opportunity to do that, and I'm looking forward to doing that. But healthcare, housing, education, these are core functions of provincial government, and we'll stay focused on those too. Okay, growing the economy. What's the plan to grow the economy? Lots of talk on what's possible with our natural resources. Obviously, wind, green hydrogen. I think we can be a powerhouse in those two areas. There's lots of potential there, but there's lots of potential around the province for different things. Lots of ideas, but we just need to get going on some of this stuff. The world's going to dictate that to us. Are you concerned at all with your hearing from out of the Oval Office yesterday in the United States, and kind of the about face on energy and carbon in particular, and how it looks as though the United States are going to throw the playbook away when it comes to that? And does that alter your plan at all here in Canada as to where we're going with coal and carbon and greening our grid and all that stuff? No, we have our targets, and we've always said it has to be affordability is a main issue for us as well. Yeah. Protecting the planet, really important. Affordability for people being able to live today, really important. So trying to find that balance that's part of governing, finding that balance. So we're focused on the environment, but we're also really, really focused on affordability here and now today. So that means being smart about the decisions. Can we do both though? Can we look after the planet and be affordable at the same, make life affordable at the same time? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's lots of good things happening, I think, but we always need to be conscious of how quick we go on some of the things. The transition, the quicker you go, maybe the more expensive it is. So maybe if you need to slow it down a little bit, to make sure that people can afford groceries and rent today, then you have to slow it down a little bit. Yeah. But this is an ongoing discussion. We have really strong legislated goals for 2030. We're looking at what's possible for 2030, what's possible for 2050, and honestly, we just have to be frank. If it turns out that it's going to be too expensive to do it for 2030 and 2035 is more realistic, then we just have to be honest about that. But we have to make sure that we look after the here and now as well. Okay, the meeting that the premiers had with the Prime Minister on tariffs. Can you tell us what came out of that? I'm sure that you can't share all of it, but what was substantive that came out of that? I'd say a couple things. The tariffs are a concern. I mean, these are long-standing trading relationships, family relationships. I mean, I was down in Boston in December with the Christmas tree, and the relationships between New England and obviously Nova Scotia and Atlantic. Those are strong traditional trading routes, a major trading partner. So any change to that is a concern, and we are concerned, but here's what I would say. I'm really impressed with the plan that Minister LeBlanc and Minister Joly have put together. And one of the things that I said to them at that time is these tariffs are something that is being done to us as a country. Yeah. We're not initiating it. Right. It's being done to us. So we have to respond, and we have to respond in an appropriate, forceful way. I think they have that plan, and we'll be ready to do that if it's necessary. We still don't actually know what's gonna happen here, right? So exactly. But we have to be ready for whatever does, and the country will be. Okay, fair enough. Let's go to the phones. 902-405-6000. Lowell, hello.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Premier. Congratulations on your election victory. I live in Lunenburg West. Our member is the Honourable Becky Drouin, so we're very happy to have her on Cabinet. Here's my question. It's very straightforward and simple. During the election campaign, one major promise you made, and hopefully this would be honoured as soon as possible, was that twin RECs would be available for citizens 65 and older. I'm 78, so I'd be very interested in getting that. And it's quite expensive. You have to pay for that. So I want to know, in the spring budget, will the finance minister make the accommodation for $27 million, which is the cost of that? and I'd like to know if that is something that's going to be done as soon as possible following the budget in the spring.
Hey, Lowell, thanks for...
Shinrax, I'm sorry.
Yeah, for the shingles vaccine for seniors, for sure. But thanks for calling in, Lowell, and you're absolutely right. Minister Drouin's doing a fantastic job, and I'm really honored to serve with her. So thanks for calling in. Thanks for those kind words, and absolutely, the shingles vaccine will be in the spring budget, and we'll honor that and roll that out as quickly as possible. That the money will be there. I don't anticipate a big delay in actually, from the money getting approved to the vaccines being administered. I think we have a good network to do that. So I'm feeling pretty optimistic about that. And I have to tell you, Lowell, you're probably the third person to ask me that in the last 24 hours. So it's an important one. It's on the minds of Nova Scotians.
Yeah, I'd also like to congratulate you. I know there's work to be done in healthcare, but it was a chance to participate with the mobile clinic last Wednesday, and I never used that before, and I was very favorably impressed by the treatment I received. So I think that's one thing you've done that's really quite excellent. I know there's others, but it's a process. Like you said, it's going to take time. And hopefully we'll get a family doctor at some point. But anyway, have a good day, and thanks for taking my call.
Okay, Lowell. Thanks for the call, pal. Take care. 902-405-6000. On the healthcare thing, look, it's the healthcare is tough. We know that. It's difficult. But I think that we can't lose the sight of the fact of the human component to the people working in healthcare themselves. And I've experienced this firsthand. I can't say enough about the care that I've received. And I think that it'd be a good opportunity for you to give a shout out, because I know you feel the same way, Mr. Premier.
Oh, 100% I do. Yeah. I mean, they're working in tough situations, emotional situations.
Imagine working in an ER every day.
They feel it. You can't be disconnected from what's happening to somebody. They feel it, so they carry a lot. They put a lot in. We're fortunate to have our healthcare workers that we have. And just, to Lowell's comment on the different access points, the mobile clinic, the pharmacy clinics, the virtual clinics. When I first became Premier, there'd be in the Premier's email box thousands of emails with negative experiences with the healthcare system. Right. And right now today, I touch wood if I can find it, but we still get some of those. There's work to be done, but we get many more positive comments like Lowell just shared there. Yeah. And I think people are starting to feel the difference. And I hope our healthcare workers know their Premier, their government supports them. I think they do. Yeah. We will continue to do that.
Yeah, and again, I think it's important that we give them a shout out because of the work that they do. 902-405-6000. That is the way to reach us. We got the Premier for the next 45 minutes, and we'll look forward to hearing from any of you. We've got open lines for you. 902-405-6000. We'll be back. All right, Premier Tim Houston here in studio, 902-405-6000. That's the way to reach us. Again, 902-405-6000. And we're chatting, went through about 7 or 8 different topics over the break. I thought I would ask you just quickly, Mr. Premier, about what's going on the federal scene right now. Because a state of flux, to say the very least, with the Liberals and what's happening there. Pierre Poilievre, man, he's got to be chomping at the bit to get to an election. Any thoughts on what's happening federally?
I mean, we're watching. What happens there has a big impact on the province, actually, through the transfer payments, through all the various relationships we have. So it's a really important relationship, and it's an interesting time for sure. We'll probably, as a country, there's a real good chance we could have 2 prime ministers in the next few months. Yeah. Like a real good chance, right? So in each prime minister will bring their own, ideology and ideas and thoughts, and so we have to be prepared to deal with that. But it's definitely an interesting time there. I mean, just the way it all unfolded with the prime minister and the leadership race there. Let's just say I'm glad that my election is in the rearview mirror and I'm not staring one down, because there's a lot of turmoil right now in Ottawa.
Of your provincial counterparts, are any of you have any best buds around the Premier's table?
Yeah, so what I would say is it's the COF table, that the Council of the Federation, that's just the Premiers. We're all doing the same thing. We're all just trying to govern. We're dealing with the same issues, healthcare, housing, economy. We're all dealing with the same things. So it is definitely a place where you kind of put the political stripe to the side at that table and just talk about what's working for you. But I'm really close to Premier Ford. And I really like this Wab Canoe he's a smart person, right? But there's a great table there. The Atlantic Premier's super close. We're always
Susan Holt's pretty smart.
Yeah, she's smart, and Premier Fury and King, like we work like we're a region, and we work close together. But the whole table is it's a really supportive table, I would say.
Okay, I'll go back to the phones. One more question. Do you envision yourself someday moving into federal politics? Is that something that I'm sure that's crossed your mind?
It's something that people ask. It's not something that's it's not on my
top of mind. No.
It's certainly not on my wife's top of her agenda either. But I'm really, really proud to be the premier of this province at this point in time. There's a lot we're getting done. There's a lot we can get done. I honestly believe that you get out what you put in. I put a lot into being premier, and I know that I'll have the privilege to be premier for a window of time.
Yep.
And then that window will close, and I'll go on and do something else. And I don't want to spend the rest of my life after that thinking to myself, "You were right there. You were right there, and you could have did something." So we go fast and we do things, and we're not perfect. Sometimes we make mistakes, but I feel the urgency to get things done. So we put a lot in.
Okay, fair enough. Daryl, hello. Hi, Daryl.
Hello, Mr. Premier.
Hi, Daryl.
How you doing this morning?
We're doing great so far. You're going to hit me with a hard one, though, aren't you?
So, I guess my question is more along the lines of what's going on with the tariffs and stuff like that. I know Doug Ford came out and said, his province was looking to lose maybe some 500,000 jobs. David Eby out west, he's looking at about 150, 200,000. You have a number in terms of what Nova Scotia could possibly lose in that effect?
Yeah, thanks, Daryl. This is an important question and timely question. Obviously, United States, a major trading partner, our biggest trading partner, long relationships, family relationships, trading. And if you think about our economy here, the Michelin, big exporter, ag, all across the agricultural sector, seafood, like it's a big issue. It's a big trading partner.
Yeah, I definitely have family in the seafood industry.
No, for sure. I think every Nova Scotian wouldn't be very far removed from this. But I think for us in this province, it has the potential impact on thousands of jobs, is what I would say.
Yeah, that's incredible.
It's a big number.
Yeah, it is a big number. And in terms of what the government is doing right now and its stand, I suspect you kind of support that. You stand behind the government right now, the federal government, and their approach.
Yeah, absolutely. Every jurisdiction is impacted differently. Obviously out west they have the oil, and Ontario is the auto sector, and there's all kinds of different impacts. But it is time for us to stand together, and I would say that. I had a chance last week to meet as premiers with the Prime Minister and Minister Dominic LeBlanc and Minister Melanie Joly, and I think that Minister LeBlanc and Minister Joly, they put a good potential response, should it be necessary, in place. I'm happy with the plan. I support the plan. And obviously, we're going to have to, we don't know what's going to happen. Anyway, the uncertainty is still very high, even right now, after the inauguration. But we have to be prepared to hit back where we can and to, pin our ears back and move forward, as my friend would say. But I'm supportive of the plan that the federal government has put together.
Awesome. Thanks, Premier. Have a great day.
Okay, thanks for the call. 902-405-6000. Mike, hello.
Hey, guys. Question for the Premier is, so we know that natural gas is definitely the cleanest of fossil fuels. We can agree on that, can't we?
Yeah, natural gas is an important part of the energy mix for sure, and it's clean compared to other ones, no question.
So when we see the spinoff, just our neighbors in Newfoundland have got from going after natural gas, why can't we go after ours? Well, we have enough natural gas here for 100 years that would change everybody's lives for the better. And honestly, when it comes to wind power and battery power, it's not even proven that they can erase their own carbon footprint from being manufactured and installed. And so why are we so going against our natural gas in this province?
No, look, it's a fair question, and I think it's a discussion that we have to have as a province soon. The world is changing. as we look out to our energy mix, for sure, we have to get to a point where we can have adult discussions about these things, and I think that time is now. I do agree with you. That's things like uranium. It's things like natural gas. It is things like wind and solar, and we talked a little bit before about the timeline for getting off coal. Does that need to change too? So I would say, we're not in Nova Scotia is not on an island here, and we can just do what we want. We're impacted by world events. We need to recognize that and be responsive, and also have a respectful view of the planet as well. But Mike, this is a discussion that has to happen. I agree with you.
I mean, we're definitely in a location where we're not going to have any of the challenges Alberta has. I mean, we can ship ours to Europe, no problems at all. It's definitely has to be had for sure, the discussion, because the spin-offs are great.
I definitely appreciate you flagging this, and it is top of mind, shall we say.
Okay, Mike, thanks for the call. There's currently we're talking natural gas, we're talking shale gas here. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different coal bed methane, there's all kinds of different. But
shale is part of the component, is it?
Yeah, generally.
And there's a full moratorium in this province right now on exploration of shale gases, or not?
There is, and uranium.
You're right. So are you saying that is up for a possible revisit? That moratorium?
Absolutely. It's a discussion that has to be had.
Really? What type of time frame are you talking?
Well, these are discussions we'll have to have with Nova Scotia, but the world's changing quick.
Yeah.
It's changing really quick.
Yeah.
So we need to be mindful of that. But I would just put a little marker down, that this is something that was part of the platform, that we would look at the energy mix and look at our natural resource development. It's something that I think, has to happen. We have to grow our economy too.
Okay, so as far as coal goes, the phase out, I think, was 2030. You said that might be moved back as well?
Yeah, I don't want to presuppose the outcome, but we have to look at, power rates are expensive in this province. And when we really start to dig into what's driving that, is it, and can we address the affordability issue in other ways by adding other parts to the grid, mixes to the grid, or, the transition is not cheap.
Right.
Building new facilities and new infrastructure and all that type of stuff. So what I would just say, there's a lot of moving parts, and my head is not in the sand on this one.
Yeah.
My head is up, and I'm looking around.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. 902-405-6000. Peter, hello.
How you doing today? Thanks, Todd.
Sure.
Good afternoon for you.
Hi, Peter.
Hi. Just curiosity. Back in 2019, I had a major operation, and they had to take my bowel out, so unfortunately, I got a colostomy bag. Now, they are very expensive. I know other people who can't afford them. And are you going to be able to do anything about that with the government? And when?
Hey, hi, Peter. Thanks for sharing that so openly. It's not something that I've had a lot of discussions about, so I appreciate you putting that on the radar. But I would take it away and look at it. It's not one that I've had given a lot of thought to. But you've certainly planted that seed, and I will. So thank you for that.
It's 16 bags, and it's $340. And it's quite a bit of money. I mean, I have to change it, 3-4 times. I'm openly about it. I never was, but I definitely am lately. And so I talked to Tim Melford, and he said he talked to you, I guess, or mentioned it to you. And so I'm just wondering, when is it going to be, and is there going to be coverage? I mean, it should be on welfare, and that'll be all covered. I work every day, and I can't afford it. And there's other people I know who can't afford it either.
That's certainly a big expense. There's no question about that. I'm not really sure on the coverage for different plans and what might exist, but thank you for calling and being so frank about that and nudging it along, and I'll circle back to Tim on that as well. He's doing a great job, by the way. He's a great representative. So proud to have him on the team. So I'll circle back to him and maybe we'll see what's. I'm not saying yes. I'm not saying no. I'm just saying it needs a bit more focus. Let's say that. Peter, is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair. He's in my area in Bedford, Larry Utech, and Bedford. And so I just talked to him one day, and he said he was going to look after it, but he's got a few things he had to look into about it. But anyway.
Okay, Peter. Good luck. Thanks for calling. Take care. 902-405-6000. We'll continue with the Premier when we come back.
Thanks.
All right, that's just one of those intros. You just got to let the whole thing go, right, Premier?
I thought it was a bit ominous.
No, but and Vanessa knows me by now and my nuances and intricacies and weirdness. That is one of those intros that she goes, okay, he's going to let the whole thing go, and I have to let it all go.
I'm going to say Vanessa took that to the right spot.
There you go. All right, 902-405-6000. Let's get back to it. We've got the Premier for another half hour or so, and 902-405-6000. Mike's giving us a buzz. Hello, Mike.
Is it me, Mike?
Well, yes, it's you, Mike.
Okay, good enough. I answered the last time you said Mike. Tim, I am 66 years old. I'm 1 year off of fighting cancer, and things are going well, except for my real life, which is pensions. I get a pitiful CPP because of my age, and we started at very low salaries and didn't contribute a lot in the early days. I've worked 55 plus years or 50 plus years of all kinds of different contributions to the province and country. And I got to I should have done more, I guess, on my end of the deal, but $707 was the beginning last year of my pension for a month of old age. If the feds aren't going to do something, I'm really, like right now, if you can't tell, I'm bouncing around and driving a dump truck. And I'm doing it under the table, Tim. And
close your ears, Tim. Tim didn't hear that.
in my life, I've had to be a criminal because the government has put me in a situation of living in not poverty, but sub-poverty. I started off at $1,300 a month. I'm now got a big supplement of $300, so I'm up to $1,600. And just to let you know, I've got one of the best deals in HRM. I've got a rent of $1,040. But you take $1,040 out of $1,600, and it doesn't give you much. The pension situations in this country for the people that were born and raised here and contributed their whole life to making this place what it is, it's not a very nice thank you. And Tim, I just want to point out one more thing. Nobody will talk about, especially in the media or the government, about what's going on with immigration and but there is a lot of talk out there, and I can't take it all as the gospel truth, but with a grain of salt. Some of it's got to have some people know people, and I'm hearing stories of people coming here and doing much better than I am a month in money. So I don't know if the province can do something. Maybe if Polyev gets in, you can bend his ear. But I am surely not appreciating. I thought at this time of life I wouldn't have to get up to an alarm clock anymore and bounce around in a truck.
Well, thank you, Mike. That's hard to hear, for sure. Any Nova Scotian, that would be hard to hear about. But a couple of things. Thank goodness your health is that's a tough battle. So keep fighting on that one.
And that was, as Todd has said, that was a very good experience over at the VG, the cancer clinic. Everybody is spectacular. There was never any issues. They were ready to go every day. I did 20 sessions of radiation. And like I said, my experience was very positive. So as far as my concerns, like with healthcare and stuff, it's just a matter of living day-to-day life. And, you get to this age and you think, one of my dreams was I'd love to go to the country of my origin, which was Scotland. That's, to me, that now, unless I win the lottery, that's never happening.
Okay, listen, Mike. In the interest of time, I want to get to your question, a couple of your questions, and I think what you're asking is there things
that the province could do to help?
Well, I think the question is: are newcomers getting a better deal in some ways when it comes to living arrangements or subsidies or whatever than people who have lived here their whole lives? Is that paraphrasing your question?
That's a sideline to it, but what could the province do also to make seniors living in that situation?
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. So as I say, it is hard to hear, and certainly, nobody wants to make government policy that turns an ordinary citizen into making them feel like a criminal. I mean, that's the worst case scenario. So I think what you're kind of talking about is politicians have a word for this called affordability. You're just talking about life, but affordability and just getting by. This is the challenge. So we always want to do more. We've tried to do what we can around the Seniors Care Grant. I hope you make use of the Seniors Care Grant that is available to seniors. It won't solve all the problems. I think some of the stuff you're talking about around affordability, the 1 point cut on the HST. Look, that's not going to solve every problem either, but it is sending a message that we understand our taxes are high. We need to get those down. So we'll do what we can. We always want to do more. That's why you see us table like deficit budgets where we're spending more than we have because we want to do more. We try to push the envelope there. But I
think one thing, Tim, that just quickly that one-time payments are a beautiful thing. Everybody would love to have $500 or $600 or $700 fall in their hand. But it doesn't resolve the problem of day-to-day life, in the long run, right? It's if I had a place here in the city, like I've got a sister in Sydney Mines, got a place that's through housing, and she pays $205 a month, and she is on oxygen. She's also on a pension. That really helps her, like if I had a nice private place like that of my own or something where I paid like $300 out of $1,600, I'd be able to save a little money and do.
Okay, all right, Mike. Again, in the interest of time, I want to give the Premier ample time to respond.
I want him to talk to other people. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, no, thanks for calling in, Mike. And certainly the housing options are part of it. The general cost of living, what we can do on taxes and power rates. These are all part of it. They all kind of add up. It's just. Even when we'll take the tolls off the bridge and somebody says, well, what's that going to do? I said, well, it's one more thing in a world of one more thing. Mm-hmm. If we can remove some one more things, we'll get there. In terms of the immigration question, we've kind of really tightened up the immigration. We're only focused now on healthcare workers and people in the skilled trades to help us build things or deliver healthcare. So we've really tightened that up. I think there is some truth to some of the refugee situations. There were some federal programs where they go right on some of the provincial programs too. So, but I do think it's been a bit overblown that the people immigrating here get a much better deal on the finances. But certainly they get on some of the provincial programs.
Yep. Thanks.
Okay,
Tim.
Mike. All right.
Thanks,
take
Mike.
care. All right.
Take care of yourself.
So when it comes to the tolls, that's a done deal. Is it on the McKay and McDonald Bridge?
Yeah, that's one. It was an interesting discussion topic during the campaign, but the tolls will come off as part of the budget.
And this might be a discussion perhaps for other people, but what about the traffic flow coming off I'm sure that's considered because you've got 2 lanes coming into the big 5 or whatever, and then back out. So, what's the plan for the traffic flow there?
And then maybe throw in a bike lane.
Yeah, that's right.
That's another.
That's right.
But so we have the Joint Regional Transportation Authority, and one of the callers, I think it was Peter, mentioned Tim Othett. But Tim is the chair of that Joint Regional.
The czar.
He's our transportation czar, I guess now, to look at traffic flow. But the 5-year plan came out today. The capital plan came out today. But in terms of we can move them along provincial roads, and then when they get into municipalities or something, sometimes it bottlenecks up. But we're working closely with HRM in particular, but other municipalities on traffic flow.
Okay, fair enough. 902-405-6000. We've got the Premier for a little bit longer. Again, 902-405-6000. We'll continue when we come back. All right, continuing with Premier Tim Houston here in studio, 902-405-6000. We've got the Premier for about another 10 minutes or so. Are you having a good time, Mr. Premier?
This is good, actually.
Yeah.
It's helpful to me just to, I love interacting with Nova Scotians and hearing from them. So this is good. We'll be back.
Excellent. Yeah. We'll hold you to that.
I know you will.
Avril, hello.
Hello, Premier Houston.
Hi, Avril.
Hi. I have a question. I would like to know when the parking fees at the Nova Scotia health facilities will be removed. I've had to go several times over the last 4 years with family and my husband and such, and it adds up. So I'm just wondering when that will be removed.
Yeah, this isn't it. So thank you for this. This is another important initiative in a couple ways. I think in the one hand, we're just talking about, the cost of living and stuff. One more thing, right? And parking paying to park is one more thing. We can deal with that. We should. And we really want, it's a really important part of a person's healing process to have friends and family around them. So we don't want a parking fee to discourage people from. But I think we've been asked about 3 of the campaign commitments on this call. They're all in the budget. So the budget will be effective April 1st, and I think April 1st we would see that, or very shortly thereafter, Avril, would be my expectation.
Well, that would be great. That was my question. Thank you very much.
Okay, all right. Not to compromise too much of the time, but the QE2 expansion. I mean, I can't imagine the engineers and the architects that are dealing with that. Unbelievable work. But is there some type of timeline that you can give people on to when that might be completed or when the next benchmark is on that?
Yep. Massive project, billions of dollars, generational investment. And I remember when I first came in, there was a bit of a plan in place. Yeah. And that plan was all premised on a declining population. And, we can't build that a 50-year project based on a declining population. Look at what message does that send anyway, but certainly the population has been growing. So there's been a couple changes along the way there, and I think some of the initial work is actually some shovels in the ground on some certain parts of that, but it is an ongoing discussion as to when the flick the lights and there's a brand new hospital there. Yeah. That's I would say a ways away yet. It's a number of years.
Like a decade?
I think I would say a decade for full completion is kind of what I have in my mind, but I can't say that with great certainty. So okay. But happy to dig into that one. And
fair enough. Fair enough. Jolena, hello.
Hi there. Premier, I have continued interest and heightened awareness on how your government addresses the concern of community safety, specifically speaking in the communities that are housing shelters and pallets. As you know, in Lower Sackville, we have a harm reduction shelter across from Leslie Thomas Junior High. With that, mental health and drug addiction continues to be an issue that Nova Scotia does not seem to be addressing. I had spoke with Max Chauvin, Director of Homelessness and HRM in December, and he said that he has spoke with individuals who would go to rehab, but there are no spaces available. Currently, there are places for people to detox. However, Nova Scotia has limited places and higher wait lists for people to rehab after detox is complete. The 24-25 Nova Scotia budget did have approximately $36 million for mental health and addiction services. What is your government going to do about getting rehab services available for individuals who want to take that step?
Thank you. This is a couple really important questions there. One around the transition housing, and it is still a concern, but I think we've made some progress there. And there's actually some really, really positive, heartwarming stories about it is meant to be transitional housing, and there's been it's been exactly that for a number of people who've gotten off from living rough into a shelter in one of the transitional home communities, and are now in their own apartment with working and stuff like that. So there's some really positive stories for sure. But we're all people, right? So we all respond to these options differently, and having the services available, what we call the wraparound services in those communities, is really important. So that's happening. The budget for mental health and addiction. So we actually created. We have a minister of addictions and mental health. That's the first one the province has had, and the budget goes across a couple different areas for sure. But that's Minister Comer, and he's very focused on this. There's always more we can do, but in terms of being there to support people when they're ready, because they're not always ready, but when they're ready is really important. And we will continue to invest in that, look for ways to support people.
Right. I appreciate definitely the ability for these places to be helping individuals, and I am happy to hear that there are individuals that are being helped. The continued concern does surround the shelter in specifics, not necessarily the people who are moving forward, and it's just a continued awareness of community safety as well as their safety in our community. And hopefully that is something that is still being addressed. And I do hope that there is going to be services available for those individuals who would like to take that step.
Yeah, so look, I agree with you. We're in the same place on this one. Everybody, we want community to be safe, feel safe, but actually be safe. And everybody has the right to feel safe in their community and on their street and in their home. So if we, I hope there's no sense that we've lost sight of that. I certainly hope we haven't, but I'll take that back to the team to make sure that they keep that strong focus on people have to be safe. And in terms of, supporting people on their journey, whether it's recovery from addiction or whatever the case may be, and making sure the supports are there. That's kind of a fundamental part of these communities.
Thanks, Jolena.
Thank you so much.
Okay, you got it. Take care. Alistair, hello.
Hi, gents. Thanks for taking my call. I was just looking to squeeze Mr. Houston on the issue of property tax, if that was okay.
Sure, I'm sure he'd love to be squeezed.
Absolutely. Squeeze away, Alistair.
Squeeze away. So I have just recently became a homeowner, and I'm first encountering the property tax system here in Nova Scotia, and it's just struck me as having massive imparities. I've spoke to a few councillors and Mr. Law as well, and they couldn't really offer anything other than kind of agreement in the imparities, but nothing seems to be getting done about introducing a system that has some kind of fairness and equity to it. Without getting into it too much, there's certain demographics of your population that are getting unfairly punished. We're subsidising the rest of the system. I would say immigrants, people that are moving, so younger people, first-time homeowners, families that are going through growth periods, and immigrants are your populations that are getting hit hard, and subsidising the shortfalls in the system, predominantly because of this outdated cap system, or from my perspective, an outdated cap system that you're still running. I'm obviously one of these people that, being an immigrant and being a young family, that I am falling into the category where I'm subsidising the shortfalls. And I just don't hear anything about any movement on introducing a taxation system that's got fairness. Nobody likes getting their money taken, but at least if taxation's done fairly, you can. We all enjoy the things that Nova Scotia has to offer. So I do see the value in it, but it needs to be done fairly. Now, the only thing that's kind of ever been said to me, that the argument from the other side in the cap system and how it works, would be the old people down in Chester that would have had their homes taken off them if the cap system wasn't in place.
Yeah, listen, Alistair, in the interest of time, I want to give the Premier, because he's tight on time. This has been brought up, the cap system, quite a bit, right? So what's your response to that?
Yeah, so thank you, Alistair. And certainly you're talking about the property, the tax cap that is in place. Yeah. It might not be, you might not see a lot of discussion about that right now, but certainly I would say maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and every 4 or 5 years, it picks up a lot of steam for sure. And the cap system was designed to protect seniors, not just in Chester, but really around the entire province. Every time a home changes, the cap changes, and so a lot of that turnover is happening. But I'll just be frank. I mean, there's no intention right now to do away with the cap system. We always have discussions with the municipalities to see if there's other systems on, you pay for services, you pay for this much trash collection, or sidewalk, or whatever the case may be. It is a discussion that comes up, but it's I'm sorry to hear about the impact that it's certainly having on you and your family and others like you in similar situations. But it's not. It wasn't a discussion in the campaign, and it's not something that is in my top list of things to do. If I'm being frank.
Okay, let's sneak one more in here. If we make you a little late for your next meeting, well, then they can blame me. Let's get one more on here. Roy, hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Well,
we're doing good, Roy.
Oh, hello, Mr. Premier. Okay, so I'm not sure if I have a question, a statement, or a point, but what I was thinking about was the demographics of the doctor-to-patient ratio. I'm 60 years old. I have a family doctor. I've seen him probably 5 or 6 times in the last 10 years. Prior to that, I never seen my family doctor. Is it possible or even ethical that doctors be allocated to seniors and those in need that need them right now, as opposed to a demographic of, say, 20, 30, 40-year-olds who have family doctors but never go see them because they have no need to because they're relatively healthy?
Yeah.
And if they're relatively healthy, wouldn't it make more sense to say, let's allocate our doctors to the needy? I mean, it makes more sense to me that a 20-year-old or a 30-year-old can walk into an emergency or walk into a clinic and sit there for 12 hours a lot easier than it takes a 90-year-old to do the same
Okay,
thing.
interesting.
Or use virtual. So I'll take it as a statement and a question. Right, I totally agree with you. It is happening. The list, the famous list is coming down for sure. There's still a lot of people to be attached for sure, but I do feel like we are turning a corner on that. And the people that are on the need of family practice list, they are triaged, as we would say, and they look at, because you're absolutely right. My 24-year-old son, who's on that list, is not the same as his grandmother who's on that list. They have different needs, and so we do triage the list, and we try to take people off the list based on those that are have a more urgent need. Could be a chronic condition, could be a number of things. So that is happening. There's always room for improvement, and we'll try to do that a bit more. But we are turning a corner on this. With there's more doctors coming. The International Physician Assessment Clinic will open up in the next couple weeks here. That's a big deal. The new medical school at Cape Breton University, that's a big deal. So there is good things happening. But I agree with you that we need to. I would say what you're saying is just address the immediate need as quickly as you can, and I agree with you.
Okay, Roy. Thanks, pal.
Thank you.
All right, take
Thanks,
care.
Roy.
Mr. Premier, I want to thank you so much for coming in and doing this. We appreciate it very much, and let's make it happen again.
Let's make it happen.
All right, excellent. That's the Premier of the province, Tim Houston. We'll be back. All right, we got a bit of time to the top of the hour. The Premier has left the building, so that means you're stuck with me for a little while. You can give me a call if you'd like to have a chat, 902-405-6000. And perhaps you heard some things that the Premier said that you agreed with or disagreed with or whatever it might be, 902-405-6000. Greg, you're still on the line. The Premier's gone. You realize that, eh? Oh, there you go. He's gone. 902-405-6000. Eric, the Premier's not here. Did you still want to talk to me?
Yeah, I want to talk to you about that play with the Buffalo and Baltimore team there. That guy normally doesn't drop too many balls. And I was just wondering, do you think there was any funny stuff going on? Because they wanted Kansas City and the Bills to battle it out. Now, I know that I always said that sports had a funny thing about it, but that guy catches 9 out of 10 balls, and I know it was cold there, but I don't think his hands were that cold to drop a ball. What do you think of that particular play by Andrews?
I didn't see it, Eric. I really didn't see it. I can't comment on it. Do I think that players and the league wants teams to throw games to benefit ratings and all that? I've never believed that. Maybe I'm naive. I don't subscribe to that. I think it would be too difficult to put a fix in. I think with boxing and some sports like that, it was easier to put the fix in for somebody to take a fall. But a team sport, especially like football, I just don't know how you could orchestrate that. And I would be shocked, and I would say that I don't believe it. No, based on what you just told me.
I know you don't believe it, but I mean, there was nobody around them.
No, I get it, but Eric, I mean, let's say that the league wanted who. So you're saying the league wanted what matchup? What would be the point of this?
Kansas City and Buffalo, because Kansas City was on a 15-game winning streak,
right?
And the only loss that they had, other than the 38-0.
Yes.
demolition because Kansas City didn't dress anybody. But I thought from my point of view, because you know I follow sports very close.
Yes.
For the ratings, they would want Kansas City and the Bills. Now I'm not saying nothing about Baltimore. They played a good game. But my God, that play looked so, oh my geez.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that he dropped the ball. I mean, and a lot of other people, the Buffalo fans didn't really care. But that game had it been in Baltimore, all hell would have broken loose.
Yeah, again, Eric, all I can say is that I don't subscribe generally to players and teams throwing games or referees throwing games for a variety of reasons, but perhaps I'm naive. Thanks, buddy.
Referees have a lot of bearing on sports, and you know that from past experience.
Well, I know that, Eric, but I also know that for the most part, you're talking about people's careers and money. I get money talks, but I just think that it's oftentimes we hear that the fix is in, and I would dare say that probably that's never the case, but perhaps I'm naive. Thanks, Eric. Appreciate it. Keith, hello.
Hi, Todd.
Hi there.
Just a quick thing. I just listened to the Premier talking about taking tolls off the bridges.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand. Common sense to me, if people want to go into Halifax, they should pay to go into Halifax. I live in the Eastern Shore. I've got no desire to go into Halifax whatsoever. And our property taxes are going through the roof. Instead of taking the tolls off, why can't they use the money collected for that to keep our property taxes down?
Well,
that's all I have to say, really.
Well, I suppose the idea that to disincentivize people to come to the city with tolls is that kind of what you're getting at, to keep less traffic?
Yeah, well, they've been going in for years paying tolls, and now he wants to take them off. They were going to pay it anyways. Our property taxes, I'm on a fixed income, and my property taxes, he went way up again this year.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's a cap on it, but the cap's gone up too, and it's going to make me homeless, basically, if it keeps going up. Why can't they take all this money, keep collecting it from the people that have to go into the city to work, and use it on lowering the property taxes?
Yeah.
Anyway,
okay.
I wanted to call in and ask the Premier that, but I figured it'd be such a big lineup that I'd never get a chance anyway. But I just want to voice my opinion.
Okay, fair enough, Keith. Appreciate the call, pal. Take care.
Okay, have a good day.
Okay, take care. Good luck. Let's see here. A couple of things as we march to the end of the show. Loblaw says grocery prices will continue to rise faster than overall inflation. Canada's largest grocer says many suppliers are still proposing price increases above inflation, while a weaker loonie and rising production costs are also making food more expensive. The country's major grocers have been under intense scrutiny in the wake of a bout of inflation that saw grocery prices go up more than 20% over 3 years. The grocers have denied accusations of profiting from inflation. So here we go again. Loblaw, crying hard times, saying prices will continue to rise faster than overall inflation for the reasons why I mentioned. Well, the general public out there, folks, doesn't buy it anymore. They just don't. When you look at the record profits that they'll roll out, they'll say this quarter, big profits, and then they'll say, well, it's because of our pharmacies, our sale of clothing, or whatever they'll trot out there. But to me, look, you've got Weightgate, as I'm calling it. Weightgate, what is that? Of course, we talked about it earlier in the week. Scales. Talked about it with Sylvain Charlebois. When it comes to weighing meat and underweighing meat and overpricing meat and the size of chips and how much chips or how much a bag of chips weighs. And they include the package. And there's just so many instances, folks, where it's pretty evident that we're being gouged here. And the argument is becoming increasingly difficult, if not impossible to make, that there's not some severe, endemic, systemic problem with it when it comes to corporations and food in this country. And they can roll out all of these excuses they want about inflation and supply chain issues and all of this stuff. I think that when you look at margins and you look at what you can buy in other places compared to places like Loblaw and Gateway Market over in Dartmouth is a good example. You can get all kinds of deals over there at 2, 3, 4 times less money than you can at Loblaws or Sobeys. And at some point, logic would dictate that something's up. Anyway, just my thoughts, as I like to always say. I'd like to thank Vanessa Vandeness on the other side of the glass of the control boards, doing a fine job as always. Thanks for listening, everybody. We're back tomorrow, 10 o'clock. See you then.